Jake Miller pushed his cleaning cart down the long hallway of New Horizon Station. The wheels made a soft, squeaking sound on the metal floor. He had been working the night shift for 3 years now and knew every corner of this place. The station was huge and filled with scientists from many different worlds. Most of them were sleeping at this hour. Jake liked the quiet nights. He could work in peace without people asking him to move out of their way. During the day, the halls were full of humans and aliens rushing around. They carried strange devices and spoke in languages he did not understand. At night, everything was calm. He stopped at Lab 7 and used his keycard to open the door. Dr. Arya Voss was still working inside even though it was past midnight. She looked up from her microscope and smiled at Jake. Dr. Voss was a xenobiologist, which meant she studied alien life forms. She had short brown hair and always wore a white lab coat covered in stains. Jake thought she worked too much, but she seemed happy doing her research. She waved at Jake as he entered with his mop and bucket. He had cleaned this lab many times before. Dr. Voss never minded when he worked around her. Sometimes she even talked to him about her experiments. Jake began mopping the floor near the entrance. The cleaning solution had a strong chemical smell, but he was used to it. He had mixed this batch himself using the industrial chemicals from the supply room. The formula worked well on the special materials used throughout the station. Dr. Voss was looking at samples of alien bacteria under her microscope. She made notes on a tablet while Jake worked quietly nearby. He could see strange glowing containers on her workbench. The bacteria inside them created their own light. Jake had always been curious about science, even though he was just a janitor. Before coming to the station, he had studied engineering at a university on Earth. That felt like a lifetime ago now. After a terrible mistake that cost people their lives, he had given up engineering forever. He preferred the simple work of cleaning. Nobody died if he missed a spot on the floor. Nobody got hurt if he used the wrong chemical mixture. It was safe and peaceful work that let him sleep at night. As Jake mopped under one of the workbenches, his elbow bumped into a small container. The container tipped over and spilled bright blue liquid across the metal surface. The liquid dripped down onto the floor where Jake had just applied his cleaning solution. Something strange happened when the two liquids mixed. The spot began to glow with a soft purple light. Jake stared at it in surprise. He had never seen anything like this before. Dr. Voss looked up from her microscope and noticed the glowing spot too. She came over to examine it more closely. Her eyes went wide with interest. The purple glow was getting brighter. It pulsed like a heartbeat and made a very quiet humming sound. Jake apologized for spilling the container, but Dr. Voss told him not to worry. She was more interested in understanding what was happening. She knelt down next to the glowing mixture and took out a small scanner. The device beeped rapidly as she pointed it at the purple light. The readings on its screen made her gasp with excitement. Dr. Voss explained that the blue liquid contained quantum particles from an elvish research project. The elves were an ancient alien race known for their advanced technology. They had tall, thin bodies and pointed ears like the elves from old Earth stories. But these elves traveled between stars and understood science that humans were still learning. The elvish quantum particles should not react with human cleaning chemicals. According to all known science, the two substances were completely different. Yet here they were creating light and energy together. Jake watched as Dr. Voss collected samples of the glowing mixture. She seemed very excited about this accident. She told Jake this could be an important discovery that might help humans and elves work together better. Jake finished cleaning the rest of the lab while Dr. Voss worked with the samples. The purple glow slowly faded away, but she had collected enough material to study. She thanked Jake for his accident and said she would investigate further. When Jake left the lab, he felt strange. For the first time in years, something had sparked his old curiosity about science. The accident reminded him why he had once loved engineering and discovery. But he pushed those feelings away. He was just a janitor now, and that was safer for everyone. Jake continued his rounds through the station. He cleaned Lab 8, where alien botanists grew plants from distant worlds. He mopped the floors in Lab 9, where human physicists studied new forms of energy. Each lab contained wonders that most people would never see. The station was a place where different species worked together to push the boundaries of knowledge. Humans were still new to galactic civilization. Most alien races had been traveling between stars for thousands of years, while humans had only recently learned how to leave their solar system. Some aliens looked down on humans as primitive newcomers. The elves especially seemed to think humans were crude and unrefined. Jake had overheard elvish scientists making jokes about human technology and methods. They spoke in their melodic language, but their tone made their meaning clear. Jake did not mind their attitude. He was used to being overlooked and underestimated. Janitors were invisible to most people, whether they were human or alien. He could observe and learn without anyone paying attention to him. As Jake finished his shift, he stored his cleaning cart in the supply room. He hung up his mop and put away the bucket of cleaning solution. Tomorrow night he would do the same routine again. It was a simple life, but it gave him peace. He walked to his small quarters and prepared for sleep. Through his window he could see the stars and distant galaxies. Somewhere out there were dangers that most station residents never thought about. Pirates and hostile aliens who would love to capture a research station full of valuable technology and knowledge. But those threats seemed far away from Jake's small world of hallways and laboratories. He was just a janitor, keeping things clean and safe, nothing more and nothing less. Or so he thought as he drifted off to sleep. Jake could not stop thinking about the purple glow from the night before. All day long as he tried to sleep, the image stayed in his mind. The way the cleaning solution had mixed with the elvish quantum liquid fascinated him. His old engineering instincts were waking up after years of being buried. When his shift started that evening, Jake made a decision. He would try to recreate the accident in a controlled way. He told himself it was just curiosity and nothing more. He was not trying to be a scientist again. He just wanted to understand what had happened. Jake went to the supply room and mixed a fresh batch of his cleaning solution. He used the same chemicals as always, but paid more attention to the exact amounts. He had developed this formula through trial and error. Over 3 years of cleaning the station, the solution contained several industrial solvents and cleaning agents. Most importantly, it had trace amounts of minerals from Earth that helped break down alien residues. Jake had never thought much about these Earth minerals before, but now he wondered if they were important. He put some of the cleaning solution in a small container and hid it in his cart. Then he went to Lab 7 to start his rounds. Dr. Voss was working late again, as usual. She looked up and smiled when Jake entered. Dr. Voss had been studying the samples from the previous night. She told Jake the results were very strange. The mixture had created energy patterns that should not exist according to known physics. The elvish quantum particles had somehow been enhanced by the human cleaning chemicals. Jake listened while he pretended to work. Dr. Voss explained that elvish technology used quantum fields to manipulate matter and energy. The fields were very precise and controlled using special crystals. But the mixture from last night had created wild, uncontrolled quantum effects. When Dr. Voss stepped out to get coffee, Jake saw his chance. There was a small vial of elvish quantum liquid on her workbench. He carefully added a few drops to his container of cleaning solution. The reaction was immediate. The mixture began to glow with the same purple light as before, but this time Jake was ready to observe it closely. He noticed that the glow moved in patterns like tiny lightning bolts. The patterns seemed to follow the fibers of his mop when he dipped it into the mixture. Jake experimented quietly while Dr. Voss was gone. He found that his mop could actually control the direction of the glowing patterns. When he moved the mop handle, the purple energy followed. It was as if the synthetic fibers were conducting the quantum fields. Dr. Voss returned and caught Jake with his mop in the glowing mixture. For a moment she looked angry that he was interfering with scientific equipment. But then she saw what was happening, and her anger changed too. Amazement. The mop was somehow focusing and directing the quantum energy. Dr. Voss had never seen anything like it. She asked Jake how he was doing this. Jake explained that he was just moving the mop like he always did when cleaning. The energy seemed to respond to the familiar motions. Dr. Voss began taking measurements and recordings. She was clearly excited about this unexpected discovery. She asked Jake if he would be willing to work with her to understand the phenomenon better. Jake hesitated because he did not want to get involved in science again. But his curiosity was stronger than his fear. Jake agreed to help Dr. Voss study the reaction. They worked together for the rest of the night, experimenting with different amounts and movements. Each test revealed something new about how the human and elvish materials interacted. Meanwhile, other events were happening that would soon affect everyone on the station. Commander Lisa Stone was in her office, reading intelligence reports from the outer systems. The reports were not good news. A notorious pirate fleet called the Crimson Void had been attacking merchant ships near the station. The pirates were known for their brutality and advanced weapons. They never left survivors, and they took everything of value from their victims. Commander Stone was a veteran of many space conflicts. She had short gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. She had commanded New Horizon Station for 5 years and kept it safe through careful planning and strong defenses. But the station was primarily a research facility, not a military base. It had shields and basic weapons, but nothing that could stand against a major pirate fleet. The station depended on its remote location and the protection of galactic patrol ships to stay safe. The patrol ships were spread thin across many systems. If the Crimson Void decided to attack New Horizon, it would take days for help to arrive. Commander Stone began quietly, preparing emergency evacuation plans, while hoping the pirates would move on to easier targets. In another part of the station, the elvish researchers were having their own problems. Zephyra was the lead quantum physicist for the elvish delegation. She was tall and graceful with the pointed ears and silver hair typical of her people. Like most elves, she had lived for several centuries and had little patience for younger species. Zephyra had been working on a project to improve quantum crystal efficiency. The crystals were the heart of elvish technology, and any improvement would benefit her entire civilization. But her experiments kept failing in unexpected ways. Her equipment was malfunctioning and producing random energy spikes. The quantum fields were becoming unstable for reasons she could not understand. Zephyra suspected that the crude human technology on the station was somehow interfering with her delicate elvish instruments. She complained to her assistant Kirithal about the primitive conditions on the station. Kirithal was younger than Zephyra and served as both scientist and warrior. She had trained in combat, as well as quantum physics, which was unusual for elvish researchers. Kirithal suggested that perhaps they should try working with the human scientists instead of avoiding them. She had noticed that humans had different approaches to problems that sometimes led to unexpected solutions. But Zephyra was not interested in human methods, which she considered crude and unscientific. Back in Lab 7, Jake and Dr. Voss continued their experiments. They discovered that the reaction worked best when Jake used his normal cleaning motions. Any attempt to be more scientific or precise reduced the effectiveness. This frustrated Dr. Voss, who wanted to understand the exact mechanisms involved. Jake found that different movements of his mop created different patterns in the quantum energy. Circular motions made spirals of purple light. Back and forth motions created waves. Up and down motions made the energy pulse like a heartbeat. Dr. Voss theorized that the synthetic fibers in Jake mop were acting as quantum field guides. The earth, minerals in his cleaning solution were somehow compatible with elvish quantum particles. Together they created effects that neither human nor elvish science had seen before. As their experiments continued, Jake began to feel like an engineer again. The familiar excitement of discovery was returning despite his efforts to suppress it. He tried to remind himself that he was just a janitor, but it was becoming harder to believe. Dr. Voss noticed the change in Jake's attitude. She asked him about his background and learned that he had studied engineering. She encouraged him to think like an engineer again and apply his knowledge to their experiments. Jake reluctantly shared some of his ideas about how the reaction might work. His engineering training helped him see practical applications that Dr. Voss' pure research approach might miss. Together they made more progress in one night than either could have made alone. Neither Jake nor Dr. Voss realized that their discovery would soon become crucial to the survival of everyone on the station. The Crimson Void pirates were getting closer in New Horizon. Would need every advantage it could get to survive the coming attack. 3 days after the first experiment, Jake was no longer just a janitor. He still pushed his cleaning cart through the halls, but now he spent most of his time in Lab 7, working with Dr. Voss. They had made incredible progress understanding the quantum reaction. Dr. Voss had convinced Commander Stone to let Jake work part-time on the research project. Commander Stone was skeptical at first, but the preliminary results were impressive. Any discovery that might help the station defend itself was worth investigating. Jake felt strange, wearing a temporary research badge alongside his janitor uniform. The other scientists on the station looked at him with curiosity and sometimes amusement. A janitor doing quantum physics research was not something they saw every day. But Jake did not care what others thought. The work was fascinating and his engineering background was proving valuable. He could see practical applications that the pure scientists missed. Dr. Voss was learning to appreciate his different perspective on their experiments. Their biggest breakthrough came when Jake suggested testing different types of mop fibers. Dr. Voss had been focused on the chemical reaction, but Jake realized the physical properties of the mop were equally important. Different synthetic materials produced different effects. The best results came from a specific type of polymer fiber that Jake had been using for months without realizing its special properties. These fibers could channel and focus quantum energy with remarkable precision. When combined with his cleaning solution and elvish quantum particles, they created controlled energy beams. Dr. Voss was amazed by what they had achieved. In less than a week, a janitor and his mop had accomplished something that elvish scientists had been trying to do for decades. They had found a way to precisely control quantum energy using simple human materials. However, their success was about to be interrupted by outside events. Commander Stone called an emergency meeting of all senior staff. The intelligence reports from the outer systems had gotten much worse. The Crimson Void pirates had destroyed 3 more merchant convoys and were definitely heading toward New Horizon. The pirate fleet consisted of 12 heavily armed ships led by a massive battlecruiser. They had never been defeated in battle, and their reputation for brutality was known throughout the galaxy. Any station or colony that resisted them was completely destroyed. Commander Stone explained that evacuation ships were on their way, but would not arrive for at least 4 days. The pirates would reach the station in less than 2 days. New Horizon would have to defend itself with whatever resources it had. The station weapons were no match for a pirate fleet. The shields might hold for a few hours, but eventually they would fail. Commander Stone asked all department heads to suggest any ideas that might help their desperate situation. Dr. Voss spoke up about the quantum energy experiments she had been conducting with Jake. She explained that they had discovered a way to create powerful, directed energy beams using a combination of human and elvish technology. The beams might be adapted into defensive weapons. The other scientists were skeptical. How could cleaning supplies and a mop compete with military-grade weapons? The idea seemed ridiculous to most of them. But Commander Stone was willing to consider any option that might save lives. Zephyra, the elvish quantum physicist, was attending the meeting as a senior researcher. She had been struggling with her own equipment failures and was frustrated by her lack of progress. When she heard about the human experiments, her scientific curiosity overcame her prejudices. After the meeting, Zephyra approached Dr. Voss and Jake. She wanted to see their work for herself, even though she doubted that humans could have discovered something that elves had missed. Her attitude was condescending, but Jake was used to being underestimated. Dr. Voss brought Zephyra to Lab 7 and demonstrated the quantum energy reaction. Zephyra watched with growing amazement as Jake used his mop to create precise patterns of purple energy. The control and focus he achieved should have been impossible, according to elvish science. Zephyra examined the equipment with her advanced scanners. The readings confirmed what her eyes were seeing. Somehow a human janitor with primitive tools was manipulating quantum fields better than the most. Sophisticated elvish technology. Jake showed Zephyra how different mop movements created different energy patterns. He explained his theory that the synthetic fibers were acting as quantum guides while the earth minerals in his cleaning solution provided the necessary catalyst. His explanations were simple but scientifically sound. Zephyra realized that her own experiments had been failing because she was trying to control quantum fields with pure precision. Jake's approach was more intuitive and organic. He worked with the natural flow of the energy, instead of trying to force it into rigid patterns. Kirithal, the warrior scientist, arrived to check on Zephyra's progress. She was surprised to find her mentor working with humans, but quickly recognized the significance of what they had achieved. Her military training helped her see the potential applications immediately. Kirithal suggested that they could scale up the reaction to create a powerful defensive weapon. Jake's mop was small, but the same principles might work with larger equipment. They could build a system that used Jake techniques on a much bigger scale. Dr. Voss was excited by the possibility, but worried about time constraints. They had less than 2 days to create a weapon system that could stop an entire pirate fleet. The task seemed impossible, even with elvish help. Jake had been quietly thinking about the engineering challenges involved. He suggested that they did not need to create something completely new. The station already had industrial cleaning systems that could be modified. Large-scale versions of his mop and cleaning solution already existed. The idea was brilliant in its simplicity. The station maintenance department had massive cleaning systems designed to process huge amounts of liquid and debris. These systems used industrial versions of the same fibers and chemicals that Jake had been experimenting with. Zephyra began to see how they could combine existing station equipment with elvish quantum crystals. The maintenance systems could provide the scale, while elvish technology provided the precision focusing. Jake techniques would tie everything together into a working weapon. Commander Stone was informed of the plan and gave them permission to proceed. She assigned additional personnel to help with the project and cleared access to all necessary station systems. Time was running short, but this was their best hope for survival. Jake found himself at the center of an unusual team. Dr. Voss provided biological expertise and research coordination. Zephyra contributed advanced quantum physics knowledge. Kirithal offered military tactical advice, and Jake brought practical engineering skills and intuitive understanding of the quantum reaction. The team worked through the night, designing their improvised weapon system. Jake discovered that his years of cleaning experience were valuable in unexpected ways. He understood the station maintenance systems better than anyone and knew how to modify them safely. Zephyra was learning to respect human ingenuity, despite their crude methods. Jake's ability to find simple solutions to complex problems impressed her. She began to see that elvish precision could be enhanced by human creativity, rather than being diminished by it. As dawn approached, the team had a preliminary design for their weapon. It looked strange, with cleaning equipment connected to quantum crystals and energy-focusing arrays. But the theoretical calculations suggested it might actually work. Jake looked at their plans and felt both excitement and fear. His engineering instincts told him the design was sound, but he remembered what had happened the last time he had been involved in building something important. The memory of past failures threatened to paralyze him with doubt. Dr. Voss noticed Jake's hesitation and asked what was wrong. Jake explained about his engineering background and the terrible mistake that had driven him to become a janitor. The others listened as he described the project. Failure that had cost lives and destroyed his confidence. Sephora surprised everyone by speaking with compassion, instead of her usual condescension. She told Jake that all great scientists and engineers had experienced failures. What mattered was learning from mistakes and finding the courage to try again when lives depended on it. Jake realized that he could not run from his past forever. The station needed his skills and knowledge to survive. He had to overcome his fear and trust in his abilities one more time. The pirates were coming, and everyone was counting on their unusual team to find a way to stop them. Jake stood in the main maintenance bay, staring at the massive industrial cleaning system they would need to convert into a weapon. The system was designed to process wastewater and cleaning solutions from throughout the station. Now it would have to save all their lives. 18 hours remained before the Crimson Void pirates would arrive. The team had spent the previous day gathering materials and planning their modifications. Now the real work began, and there was no time for mistakes. Dr. Voss coordinated the human engineering teams, while Zephyra directed the elvish technical specialists. Kirathal worked with Commander Stone to integrate the weapon into the station defense systems. Jake found himself in the strange position of being the lead technical advisor for the entire project. The industrial cleaning system was enormous compared to Jake's simple mop and bucket. Huge tanks held thousands of liters of cleaning solution, while massive pumps could move the liquid through kilometers of pipes. Industrial-grade synthetic fibers filtered and processed waste materials with incredible efficiency. Jake realized they would need to modify his cleaning solution formula for the larger scale. The earth minerals that created the quantum reaction would have to be concentrated and purified. Dr. Voss helped him calculate the exact proportions needed for the industrial-sized system. Meanwhile, Zephyra was working to integrate her quantum crystals into the cleaning system framework. The crystals needed to be positioned precisely to focus the energy beams that the reaction would create. Each crystal had to be calibrated to work with the others in perfect harmony. The weapon design looked absurd to anyone who did not understand the science behind it. Cleaning tanks were connected to quantum crystal arrays with pipes and cables, running everywhere. It looked more like a janitor supply room than a military weapon system. Jake worried that they were making the system too complicated. His original experiments had worked best when kept simple and intuitive. The more they tried to make the weapon look professional, the more problems they encountered. The first major crisis came when they tested the scaled-up cleaning solution. The reaction was much more violent than expected, and nearly overloaded the quantum crystals. Zephyra frantically adjusted the crystal settings, while Jake tried to stabilize the chemical mixture. Dr. Voss suggested reducing the concentration of earth minerals, but Jake disagreed. His instincts told him the problem was not with the chemicals but with their approach to controlling the reaction. They were trying to force the quantum energy into patterns instead of letting it flow naturally. Jake asked everyone to stop working. For a moment, while he thought about the problem, he walked around the massive system, trying to see it as just a larger version of his simple mop and bucket. The principles should be the same, even if the scale was different. The breakthrough came when Jake realized they were thinking about the weapon backwards. Instead of trying to control the quantum reaction with elvish precision, they should let the reaction guide itself, and then focus the results. The cleaning system should work like cleaning, not like a conventional weapon. Jake explained his idea to the others. They should stop trying to make the weapon look and act like military equipment. Instead, they should embrace its nature as a cleaning system and let it work the way it was designed to work. Zephyra was skeptical about this approach, but they were running out of time and options. She agreed to reconfigure the quantum crystals, to work with the natural flow of the reaction. Instead of trying to control it rigidly, the second test was much more successful. The quantum energy flowed through the system smoothly and created focused beams at the output points. The beams could be aimed and controlled, but they maintained the organic feel that made Jake's original experiments so effective. However, they still had a major problem with stability. The reaction would work for a few minutes and then suddenly spike out of control. The energy output varied wildly and threatened to damage the equipment. They needed consistent power to be effective against the pirate fleet. Jake spent hours studying the readouts, trying to understand what was causing the instability. Dr. Voss and Zephyra offered various technical solutions, but none of them addressed the core problem. The system worked perfectly in theory, but failed in practice. The answer came to Jake while he was taking a short break. He was absent-mindedly cleaning a spill with his regular mop when he noticed how smoothly and consistently he moved. His cleaning motions had become automatic after years of practice. He did not think about them, he just did them. Jake realized that the weapon system needed the same kind of automatic intuitive control. They were trying to operate it like a complicated machine when it should be operated like a simple tool. The quantum reaction responded to natural human movements, not precise technical commands. He gathered the team and explained his theory. The weapon would work best if operated by someone who understood cleaning rather than someone who understood weapons. The control system should be designed around familiar cleaning motions and techniques. Kurithal objected that this approach was not suitable for military applications. Weapons needed to be operated by trained soldiers who could respond quickly to changing battle conditions. A cleaning-based control system would be too slow and clumsy for combat. But Jake argued that speed was not as important as consistency and effectiveness. The quantum energy beams were so powerful that a few well-placed shots would be more valuable than many poorly aimed ones. Quality was better than quantity in this situation. Zephyra surprised everyone by supporting Jake's proposal. Her scientific measurements showed that the reaction was most stable when controlled, using simple repetitive motions. Complex commands created interference patterns that reduced the weapon effectiveness. They redesigned the control interface to work like an oversized cleaning system. Jake would operate the main controls, using motions similar to his normal cleaning routine. The quantum energy would follow his movements and create focused beams wherever he directed them. The final test run was scheduled for 6 hours before the pirates arrived. Commander Stone came to observe, along with other senior staff members. Everyone was nervous, because this would be their only chance to verify that the weapon actually worked. Jake took his position at the control interface, feeling the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. Hundreds of lives depended on his ability to make this improvised weapon function properly. He tried to push aside his fears and focus on the familiar feeling of cleaning. He began with simple motions, moving the controls like he was mopping a floor. The quantum energy responded immediately, creating steady beams of purple light. The energy flowed smoothly through the system without the instability problems they had experienced before. Jake increased the intensity gradually while maintaining his steady cleaning rhythm. The energy beams grew brighter and more focused. The power readings were impressive, but the real test would come when they faced actual targets. Commander Stone had arranged for some derelict equipment to be positioned outside the station as test targets. Jake aimed the weapon at the first target and activated the main beam. The purple energy reached across space and struck the derelict with devastating effect. The target did not explode or vaporize like conventional weapons would cause. Instead, it simply stopped working. All of its systems shut down simultaneously, as if the energy had drained away all power. The effect was like watching something being thoroughly cleaned of all energy and activity. Jake hit the remaining targets, with similar results. Each one was disabled completely, but left physically intact. The quantum energy was somehow removing the ability to function without destroying the basic structure. It was like the ultimate cleaning solution that could clean away energy itself. The test results were better than anyone had hoped. The weapon could disable enemy ships without destroying them completely. This meant they might be able to stop the pirates without creating a massive debris field that could damage the station. However, Jake was exhausted after the test. Operating the weapon required intense concentration and physical coordination. He would need to maintain that level of performance for what could be hours of combat against 12 pirate ships. Dr. Voss suggested that they prepare backup operators in case Jake became too tired to continue. But Jake was the only person who truly understood how to make the weapon work properly. Training someone else would take more time than they had available. Zephyra offered to assist Jake by monitoring the quantum crystal arrays and making adjustments as needed. Her elvish training would let her maintain the technical aspects while Jake focused on the intuitive control. Kiritho would coordinate with station defenses to maximize their tactical effectiveness. Commander Stone approved the final preparations and ordered all non-essential personnel to evacuation stations. The pirate fleet had been detected at the edge of the system and would arrive in less than 4 hours. New Horizon would soon face the greatest test in its history. Jake looked at their improvised weapon one last time before the battle began. It still looked like a cleaning system connected. 2 alien crystals with pipes and cables everywhere. But he knew that sometimes the most unlikely solutions were the most effective ones. The Janitor was ready to become a warrior, but he would fight using the tools and techniques he knew best. The pirates were expecting to face conventional weapons and defenses. They had no idea what was waiting for them. The Crimson Void pirate fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the New Horizon system, like a pack of predators sensing easy prey. 12 ships arranged themselves in attack formation with the massive battlecruiser Dread Sovereign leading the assault. The pirates had never encountered resistance they could not overcome. Captain Vex Blackthorn commanded the pirate fleet from the bridge of his battlecruiser. He was a brutal alien warrior whose species had been conquering and pillaging for centuries. His reputation for cruelty was matched only by his tactical brilliance in space combat. Commander Stone watched the approaching fleet on the main display screen in the station command center. She had ordered all non-essential personnel to emergency shelters while combat teams prepared for what seemed like an impossible battle. The pirate ships outgunned the station by more than 10 to 1. Jake stood at the control interface for their improvised weapon system, feeling sweat drip down his back despite the cool air in the maintenance bay. Dr. Voss monitored the chemical systems, while Zephyra made final adjustments to the quantum crystal arrays. Kirithel coordinated with station weapons to plan their combined defense. The pirates began their attack with standard intimidation tactics. Captain Blackthorn broadcast a surrender demand, promising that only half the station population would be killed if they gave up immediately. Total resistance would result in complete destruction of everyone aboard. Commander Stone responded by raising the station shields and powering up all defensive weapons. She knew their conventional defenses would not last long, but she had to buy time for Jake's unconventional weapon to prove itself. The pirates interpreted her defiance as foolish bravery. The first wave of pirate attacks came from long range using plasma cannons and missile launchers. The station shields held, but energy readings showed they would fail within an hour under sustained bombardment. Commander Stone gave Jake permission to engage the enemy with their secret weapon. Jake began his attack sequence using the same steady motions he had perfected during years of cleaning floors. His hands moved the controls in familiar patterns, while purple quantum energy built up in the weapon systems. The energy felt alive and responsive to his guidance. The first quantum beam reached out across space toward the nearest pirate ship. The purple energy struck the vessel and spread across its hull like liquid light. Within seconds, all weapons fire from that ship stopped completely. The pirate vessel drifted helplessly as its systems shut down one by one. Captain Blackthorn stared in disbelief at his tactical display. One of his ships had simply stopped working for no apparent reason. The energy readings made no sense according to any known weapon technology. He ordered the remaining ships to continue their attack, while he tried to understand what had happened. Jake aimed his next shot at a different pirate ship, with the same devastating results. The quantum energy seemed to drain all power and functionality from whatever it touched. Ship after ship fell silent as Jake worked his way through the enemy fleet with methodical precision. The pirates tried changing their tactics by spreading out and attacking from multiple directions, but Jake's weapon could reach any target within range, and the quantum energy traveled at light speed. No ship could outrun or dodge the purple beams once Jake had aimed at them. Dr. Voss watched the chemical readings with amazement. The cleaning solution was performing exactly as designed, but on a scale she had never imagined possible. The Earth minerals were catalyzing quantum reactions throughout the pirate fleet with perfect efficiency. Zephyra monitored the elvish crystal arrays as they focused and directed the quantum energy with incredible precision. Her people had spent centuries trying to achieve this level of quantum control, and a human janitor was making it look easy. Her respect for human intuition had grown enormously. Captain Blackthorn realized that conventional tactics would not work against this unknown weapon system. He ordered his remaining ships to target the source of the energy beams and concentrate all firepower on the station maintenance section. If they could destroy the weapon, they might still win. The concentrated pirate attack put enormous strain on the station's shields in that sector. Commander Stone had to divert power from other systems to keep the shields from failing. She warned Jake that he had only minutes before the pirates broke through their defenses. Jake felt the pressure, but maintained his steady cleaning rhythm. He could not let fear or haste disrupt the quantum reaction that was their only hope for survival. Each shot had to be placed perfectly to disable another pirate ship before they could destroy his weapon. The remaining 4 pirate ships pushed their attack to maximum intensity. Energy beams and missiles hammered the station shields, while the pirates tried desperately to silence the purple weapon that was systematically destroying their fleet. Their desperation made them careless and vulnerable. Jake took advantage of their aggressive approach to target the ships more easily as they came within closer range. The quantum energy was even more effective at short distances and completely drained each ship within seconds of being hit. Soon only Captain Blackthorn's battlecruiser remained active. The Dread Sovereign was heavily shielded and armored compared to the smaller pirate vessels. Captain Blackthorn concentrated all available power into his defensive systems, while trying to ram the station in a final, desperate attack. He would destroy New Horizon even if it meant sacrificing his own ship. Jake aimed his weapon at the approaching battlecruiser and fired the most powerful quantum beam he had generated. The purple energy struck the massive ship and began spreading across its reinforced hull. But the process was slower due to the heavy shielding, and the ship continued moving toward the station. Zephyra made rapid adjustments to the quantum crystals to increase the beam intensity. Dr. Voss modified the cleaning solution mixture to provide more quantum particles. Jake maintained his steady control while pushing the weapon system to its absolute limits. The quantum energy finally penetrated the battlecruiser shields and reached the ship main systems. Captain Blackthorn watched his instruments fail one by one as the purple light drained away all power and functionality. His mighty warship became a drifting hulk just kilometers from the station. Jake slumped over the control interface, exhausted from the intense concentration required to operate the weapon. The battle was over, and New Horizon had achieved the impossible. An entire pirate fleet had been defeated by a janitor with a mop-based weapon system. Commander Stone announced their victory to the remaining station personnel. The evacuation ships arrived hours later to find everyone safe and 12 disabled pirate vessels floating nearby. The news of their success spread quickly through galactic communication networks. Jake became an instant celebrity throughout human space and beyond. The story of the janitor who defeated the Crimson Void pirates captured imaginations everywhere. But Jake himself was uncomfortable with the attention and preferred to return to his quiet cleaning duties. Dr. Voss led the scientific analysis of their weapons system and published papers on quantum field manipulation using human cleaning technology. Her work opened entirely new fields of research and earned her recognition as a leading expert in human-alien technological cooperation. Zephyra returned to elvish space with newfound respect for human creativity and unconventional thinking. She advocated for closer cooperation between elvish and human scientists. Her people began incorporating human approaches into their own research with remarkable results. Kirithal established a new defense doctrine based on improvised weapons and unexpected tactics. She believed that the greatest military advantage came from doing what enemies did not expect. Her ideas influenced military thinking throughout the galaxy. Commander Stone was promoted to admiral and given command of an entire sector fleet. She never forgot the lesson that sometimes the most unlikely people had the most valuable contributions to make. She made sure that every person under her command was valued, regardless of their official position. Jake was offered promotions, commissions, and honors from governments throughout human space, but he declined them all and chose to remain as head of sanitation and applied physics at New Horizons Station. It was a new title that recognized both his cleaning duties and his scientific contributions. The station became a model for cooperation between different species and approaches to problem solving. Scientists came from across the galaxy to study the quantum cleaning technology and learn from the unusual team that had developed it. Jake continued his cleaning rounds, but now, alien researchers often asked for his advice on difficult problems. He discovered that his intuitive approach to science was valuable in many different fields. His engineering background, combined with years of practical experience, gave him insights that pure theorists often missed. The disabled pirate ships were eventually converted into research vessels and defense platforms. The quantum energy had left them structurally intact, but completely empty of power. They became useful additions to the station facilities, and a permanent reminder of an impossible victory. Captain Blackthorn and his surviving crew were turned over to galactic authorities for trial. The pirate leader never understood how his mighty fleet had been defeated by what appeared to be cleaning equipment. The technology remained classified to prevent other criminals from developing countermeasures. Jake often stood at his quarters window, looking out at the stars and thinking about the strange turns his life had taken. He had tried to escape from science and engineering by becoming a simple janitor. But fate had other plans and used his cleaning skills to save hundreds of lives. He realized that everyone had value and potential contributions, regardless of their position or background. The key was being ready when opportunity arose and having the courage to act when others needed help. Sometimes the most ordinary people could accomplish the most extraordinary things. The mop that had helped defeat a pirate fleet now hung in a place of honor in Jake quarters. It looked exactly like any other cleaning tool, but it represented something much more important. It proved that heroism could come from anywhere, and that the simplest solutions were often the most powerful ones. New Horizons Station continued its mission of scientific research and discovery. The cooperation between humans and aliens had grown stronger through their shared experience of crisis and triumph. Jake kept the laboratories clean and occasionally saved the galaxy, using nothing more than common sense and a good mop.